Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are taking a deep dive into something pretty fascinating.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
it's Spinoza's Ethics,
Oh, okay.
specifically part 3, where he just breaks down human emotions
Interesting.
in a way that you might not expect. And
Mhm.
we've got excerpts from the text right here.
Okay, cool.
And trust me, it is way more exciting than it might sound at first.
I'm intrigued already. So
Yeah,
Spinoza, he was kind of a radical thinker for his time.
right.
Instead of like getting all poetic or, judgmental about emotions,
Yeah,
he wanted to understand them with the same logic that you'd use like
right.
to solve a math problem.
It's like he's saying, let's dissect joy and anger with the precision of a surgeon,
Yeah.
which is wild because, back
Oh,
then,
yeah.
people saw emotions as these like irrational things
Right.
to be tamed or to be
Yeah,
controlled.
absolutely.
But Spinoza wanted to understand the why behind them.
Exactly. And for Spinoza, understanding the why always started with this idea of like seeing humans as part of nature, you know,
Well,
governed by the same natural laws as like everything else.
right.
It's like this giant web connecting everything in the universe.
Yeah.
And he believed we're all a part of that web,
Yeah.
not like above it somehow.
We're all in this together.
We're all in it together, and our emotions,
Yeah.
even the messy ones,
Even the bad ones.
they're just part of that natural order.
It's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to break down this web, so to speak,
Yeah.
Spinoza gets really, really specific with his language.
Right.
He actually gives us like formal definitions
Yeah.
for things like adequate cause
Mhm.
and inadequate cause.
Okay, so an adequate cause is something where you fully understand
Hmm.
the connection between like the cause and its effect.
Oh, okay.
So like say you choose to watch a comedy movie because you want to laugh.
Yeah,
You get why you're doing it.
makes sense.
That's an adequate cause.
So inadequate cause is the opposite, like when you suddenly feel sad and have no idea why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You only partially understand why you're feeling that way.
right.
And so it can feel confusing or even like the emotion is controlling you.
It's like it's coming out of nowhere.
Totally. Yeah. And this actually leads to his ideas of action and passion.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break those down for me.
All right, so action is when you are the adequate cause of something.
Okay.
You're in the driver's seat,
Okay.
like deciding to go for a run because you want to get some exercise.
Yeah.
But passion is when something else is kind of pulling the strings
Mm-hmm.
and you're more passive, like that sudden wave of sadness we talked about. So it's all about how much control we really have over our emotions.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how this ties back into his idea of humans being part of nature.
Right.
Like we're always being influenced by things both inside and outside of ourselves.
Exactly. And this leads to like one of Spinoza's most mind-blowing claims.
Okay, lay it on me.
Body cannot determine mind to think.
Hmm.
Neither can mind determine bodied emotion.
Wait, hold up. Isn't that like the opposite of how we usually think about it?
It is.
Don't we use our minds to control our bodies all the time?
We think we do.
We think we do.
But Spinoza believed that the mind and body
Uh,
are like two sides of the same coin.
okay.
They influence each other,
Right.
but not in a simple cause and effect way.
So it's not like the mind is the puppet master and the body is the marionette.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's more like they're dancing together.
Hmm.
What happens in the mind reflects what's happening in the body and vice versa.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now, there's another one of Spinoza's propositions that I found really thought-provoking.
Okay.
He says,
Uh-huh.
the mind shrinks from conceiving those things,
Hmm.
which diminish or constrain the power of itself and of the body.
Oh, wow.
So basically, he's saying our minds naturally gravitate towards what empowers us.
Yeah, this actually aligns with a lot of modern psychology.
Yeah, particularly the idea of like approach and avoidance behaviors.
Okay.
Our minds, and by extension, our bodies,
Yeah,
are wired to seek out what feels good and beneficial
makes sense.
and to avoid what feels harmful.
So we're naturally drawn to things that make us feel capable and in control,
Yeah,
like making a tough decision or achieving a challenging goal.
exactly.
Those feel good.
And this ties directly into Spinoza's definitions of pleasure and pain.
Like,
He sees them as transitions to greater or lesser perfection.
hmm.
Our minds instinctively seek greater perfection, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
So it's like our internal compass is always pointing us towards growth and fulfillment,
Right.
even if the path there isn't always clear.
Even if it's kind of bumpy. Yeah.
Okay, now speaking of pleasure and pain, this brings us to Spinoza's definitions of love and hate,
Okay.
which I have to admit threw me for a loop at first.
Yeah.
He says, love is nothing else but pleasure, accompanied by the idea of an external cause.
Okay.
And hate is the same, but with pain instead of pleasure.
Interesting.
Isn't that kind of reducing love to just a good feeling?
Well, you're absolutely right. Spinoza isn't saying that love is just pleasure,
Okay.
but rather that pleasure is like a fundamental component of it. And the
Okay.
external cause is key
Yeah.
because it connects that feeling to something or someone specific in the world.
Gives it context.
Exactly. Gives it that context.
So if I'm understanding this right, Spinoza would say that if you love something, you naturally want to keep it close,
Uh-huh.
to preserve it because it brings you this sense of pleasure and fulfillment.
Exactly. And if you hate something,
Yeah.
you want to get rid of it because it's associated with pain or a decrease in your sense of well-being.
Right.
It's all about this drive to enhance our being, to move towards what feels good and away from what feels bad.
But it's not always a conscious choice, right?
Yeah.
It's often more instinctual, happening beneath the surface of our awareness.
Absolutely. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Spinoza argues that our emotions can be heavily influenced by resemblance.
Okay.
Like we can start to love something just because it reminds us of something else we already love.
Think about it.
It's true.
You decide something is good because it genuinely is,
Hmm.
or because it fulfills a deep need within you.
That's deep.
Spinoza kind of flips the script on traditional morality,
Interesting.
suggesting that our desires shape our values.
Yeah.
So take a second and think about the things you love.
Yeah.
Do they bring you a sense of pleasure, of fulfillment?
Mm.
This is exactly what Spinoza's getting at.
He has a whole section in part 3 where he
Yeah.
lays out all these propositions
Right.
about how we can develop feelings for something simply because it reminds us of something else we already have feelings for.
Right.
And it works both ways with love and hate.
So like if I see someone who reminds me of a friend I love,
Yeah.
I might instantly feel a sense of warmth towards them, even if I don't know them at all.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side,
Yeah.
if someone reminds you of someone you dislike,
Yeah.
you might find yourself feeling averse to them without even realizing why.
Wow. That's kind of freaky when you think about it.
It is.
It's like our past experiences are constantly shaping our present emotions without us even being aware of it.
And it even applies to how we view ourselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Spinoza talks about pride as an example
Uh-huh.
of how we can have like an inflated sense of self
Right.
just because we associate ourselves with positive qualities,
Well, yeah.
even if we haven't really earned them.
So if we're constantly being influenced by these like subconscious associations and resemblances,
Right?
how much of what we feel is truly based on the object itself
Mm,
and how much is just projected onto it from our past?
that's a head scratcher.
It is, right?
It's almost as if our emotional lives are shaped by this like intricate web of associations and resemblances, constantly influencing how we perceive and respond to the world.
And you see this playing out everywhere. Think about advertising, where they're always trying to associate products
Right.
with images of happiness or success
Yeah.
to make us desire them.
To make us want to buy them.
Exactly.
Or in social dynamics,
Yeah.
we tend to gravitate towards people who remind us of ourselves or others that we already love.
Right.
This emotional contagion by resemblance,
Hmm.
it's a powerful force.
It is, but it can also have some pretty negative consequences, can't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like prejudice can stem from hating a whole group of people.
Mm.
Just because we've formed negative associations with a few individuals within that group.
It certainly highlights the importance of critical thinking,
Yeah,
questioning our own assumptions.
for sure.
But just because we feel a certain way about something, it doesn't mean that feeling is always justified or accurate.
You really have to check yourself.
You do.
Seems like Spinoza's giving us a whole new way to understand how easily our emotions can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Not just by others, but also by our own minds.
By ourselves.
Right. And this all ties back to his core ideas.
Right.
Like his focus on definitions, his view of humans as part of nature,
Yeah.
and his emphasis on understanding the causes of our emotions.
No, it's a remarkably systematic approach.
Mm.
And it gives us a powerful framework for understanding not just our individual emotion,
Right.
but also how they shape our interactions with others.
It's like the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
It really is amazing how he manages to connect all these seemingly disparate aspects of human experience.
Yeah, it's quite a system he's building.
It is. Okay, so one thing that really stood out to me
Yeah.
was Spinoza's take on how our emotions influence our actions.
Okay.
He suggests it's not as straightforward as we might think.
Right. He actually argues that we don't strive for things because we consider them good.
Okay.
Instead, we consider things good because we strive for them.
Whoa. Hold on.
It's a bit of a mind bender.
It is. So our desires actually come before our judgments about what's good or bad.
Yeah, it's this radical idea that our values aren't these like fixed external things.
Right.
They emerge from our deepest desires and aversions.
So it's all about what we're drawn to and what we try to avoid.
Exactly.
I can definitely see that playing out in my own life.
Think about it this way.
Yeah.
Do you decide something is good because it genuinely is, in some objective sense?
Yeah.
Or because it fulfills a deep need within you?
Oh, that's deep.
Spinoza is suggesting that it's the latter.
Okay, now my brain is really starting to hurt.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
So how does this tie back to his whole pleasure and pain thing?
Well, he basically says that things that lead to pleasure we label as good.
Oh.
Things that lead to pain we label as evil.
Okay, I think I'm following.
Yeah.
So since everyone experiences pleasure and pain differently, their definitions of good and evil will also be different.
Exactly.
Kind of like how some people love spicy food and others can't stand it.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
A miser, for example, might find the greatest good in amassing wealth,
Right.
while a glory seeker might find it in achieving fame.
It's like everyone's operating with their own internal compass,
Yeah.
guided by this unique set of desires and aversions.
Exactly. And this makes understanding human behavior much more nuanced.
Right.
It's not just about people choosing right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding the underlying motivations that drive their actions.
So it's like instead of just judging someone's behavior, you try to see the world through their eyes.
Yeah.
And understand what's driving them.
Precisely. And remember, those motivations are often tied to our emotional states.
Right.
Which, as we've seen, can be pretty unpredictable.
Yeah. Emotions can definitely throw a wrench in the works.
We sure can.
Okay. There's another one of Spinoza's propositions that I have to ask you about.
Okay.
He says that if someone starts to hate an object they used to love, so that the love is totally gone,
okay,
they will regard it with more hatred than if they'd never loved it at all.
That's interesting.
That seems kind of extreme, doesn't it, Ed?
It does sound intense, right?
Yeah.
But it actually makes sense when you consider everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
Love, according to Spinoza, involves this intense desire to preserve the object of our affection. So when that love turns to hate, all that energy gets channeled in the opposite direction.
It's almost like the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
The higher the initial swing towards love,
Right.
the harder the fall into hatred.
Precisely. And this principle applies not just to romantic love, but to anything we feel strongly about.
Okay.
A friendship.
Yeah.
A political ideal.
Right.
Even a favorite band.
Wow. I'm starting to see how this could play out in so many different areas of life.
Yeah, it's a powerful principle.
But if our emotions are so prone to these dramatic reversals, how can we ever find any kind of stability or lasting happiness?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And Spinoza does offer a path towards this kind of emotional mastery.
Right.
He believed that true freedom and happiness come from understanding and mastering our emotions,
Okay.
not from being ruled by them.
Now, how do we do that?
How do we stop being puppets to our own passions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Spinoza was a big believer in the power of reason and understanding. He felt that the more we understand the true causes of our emotions, the less we'll be at their mercy.
So it's about shining a light on those inadequate ideas.
Yeah.
Those beliefs and assumptions that are based on incomplete understanding.
Exactly. He saw those inadequate ideas as the root of our passions and therefore our suffering.
Okay, so this is starting to click for me.
Good.
So if we can cultivate more adequate ideas, a clear understanding of ourselves and the world, we can move from a state of passion to a state of action.
Yes.
We become more in control of our lives, less driven by external forces or our own fluctuating feelings. You're getting it, and this is where Spinoza's idea of strength of character comes in.
Okay. He actually breaks this down into two main components, right?
He does.
Courage and high-mindedness.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear more about those.
All right, let's start with courage.
Okay.
For Spinoza, courage isn't about being fearless or reckless. It's about having the desire to preserve our own being in accordance with reason.
So it's about acting in our own best interest, but not in a selfish way.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions with our understanding of what's truly good and beneficial.
Right.
It's about making choices from a place of clarity and wisdom, not just reacting impulsively to our emotions.
So it's like pausing before you react.
Yeah.
Taking a breath and asking yourself, What's the most rational and beneficial course of action here?
Yes, and high-mindedness.
Okay.
The other component of strength of character is all about our connection to others.
Okay.
Spinoza defines it as the desire to aid others and unite them to ourselves in friendship.
So it's about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting in ways that benefit both ourselves and those around us.
Precisely, it's about cultivating compassion, understanding, and genuine connection with others.
This is beautiful.
It is.
It seems like Spinoza is outlining a path towards a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
One where we're not constantly battling our emotions,
Right.
but rather guiding ourselves with reason and compassion.
That's the heart of it, really. He believed that by cultivating these qualities, courage, high-mindedness, and understanding, we can break free from the tyranny of our passions and live more meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
And talk about how our emotions play out in our relationships with others.
Right.
Spinoza has some really interesting things to say about how we tend to project our own feelings onto those around us.
Yes. For example, he argues that if we imagine someone we love is feeling joy, we ourselves will feel joy. Okay. And the same goes for pain. If we think someone we love is suffering, we'll feel pain too.
It's like our emotions are contagious.
It is kind of like that.
No wonder relationships can be so intense.
Right.
We're basically absorbing each other's feelings all the time.
It's like an emotional echo chamber.
Right, and this emotional contagion is amplified by the fact that we naturally want others to share our feelings.
Right. We try to make those we love what we love, and those we hate what we hate.
Which can lead to all sorts of problems, right?
Again.
I mean, think about how often conflicts arise from trying to force our own views or preferences on others.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
It's like we're all walking around trying to remake everyone in our own image.
It's a recipe for disharmony.
It is.
And Spinoza recognized this. He even had a proposition about how this desire for shared feelings can lead to ambition.
Really?
Where we seek the approval of others.
Right.
Often at the expense of ourselves or others.
So he's acknowledging the potential downsides of this natural tendency to want our emotional world reflected back to us by those around us.
Yes. And on the flip side, he also highlights the power of reciprocation.
How so?
Well, he argues that hatred is increased by being reciprocated. But it can be destroyed by love.
Okay.
So while negativity can fuel more negativity, love has the power to break that cycle.
That's actually really hopeful.
It is.
It suggests that even the most intense negative emotions can be transformed through love and understanding.
Exactly, and this transformation can be profound.
Yeah.
Spinoza even argued that hatred that's completely vanquished by love passes into love.
Wow.
And that this new love is thereupon greater than if hatred had not preceded it.
That's incredible.
It is.
So experiencing the full spectrum of emotions, even the negative ones, can actually deepen our capacity for love and connection.
It's like going through a fire and coming out stronger on the other side.
That's a great way to put it.
And this makes me think about Spinoza's definition of pity, which he describes as pain arising from another's hurt.
Right.
It seems like pity, while painful, can actually be a gateway to compassion and connection.
It's like when you see someone suffering.
Yeah.
Especially someone you see as similar to yourself. It triggers this instinctual desire to help, to offer comfort and support.
Precisely. And Spinoza gave this impulse a specific name, benevolence. He defined it as desire arising from compassion.
That's so insightful.
It is.
He's showing how our emotions, even the ones that might seem purely negative on the surface, can actually be the seeds of our most virtuous actions.
And this ability to see the interconnectedness of our emotions, to understand how they can drive both our destructive and our most compassionate actions, is what makes Spinoza's work so profound and timeless.
It's like he's giving us a map.
A map.
To navigate the complexities of our inner lives.
Yes.
And our relationships with others.
Our relationships with each other.
Helping us understand not only what we feel, but why we feel it.
Right.
And how those feelings shape our choices and actions.
Exactly. It's all connected. It really is a map, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as with any good map, it helps us understand where we are, where we might want to go, and how to navigate the tricky terrain along the way.
I love that analogy. Okay, so speaking of tricky terrain,
yeah,
there's another aspect of Spinoza's work that I found both challenging and kind of liberating.
Okay.
He talks a lot about the importance of recognizing our own limitations.
Yes, he has this idea that the mind endeavors to conceive only such things as assert its power of activity.
Right.
So we're naturally drawn to thoughts and ideas that make us feel capable and in control.
It's like we want to believe we're the heroes of our own stories.
Right.
Right.
But Spinoza seems to be suggesting that real strength comes from acknowledging our weaknesses as well.
Exactly. And he even gives a name to the pain we feel when we contemplate our own limitations.
Okay.
Humility. It's not always a comfortable feeling, but Spinoza saw it as an essential part of self-knowledge. So admitting that we're not perfect, that we don't have all the answers, can actually be a source of strength.
It can.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, and it goes back to his whole concept of humans being part of nature.
Right.
We're not these all-powerful beings who can bend the universe to our will.
Right.
We're subject to the same laws and limitations as everything else.
We are.
And embracing that reality, accepting our own imperfections, can be a source of both wisdom and freedom.
It's like that saying, the only way out is through.
Right.
Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is acknowledge our own vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. And this acceptance of our limitations can also make us more compassionate towards others.
How so?
Well, when we recognize that everyone is struggling with their own weaknesses and imperfections, it becomes easier to offer understanding and forgiveness.
Yeah, it's like that feeling you get when you realize that everyone else is just as nervous or awkward as you are at a party.
Yeah.
It instantly puts you at ease. Okay, there's another one of Spinoza's propositions that I wanted to get your take on.
Okay.
He says, different men may be differently affected by the same object. And the same man may be differently affected at different times by the same object.
Right.
So basically he's saying there's no objective way to determine how something will make someone feel.
That's exactly right. Our emotional responses are incredibly subjective, shaped by our unique experiences, beliefs, our current mood, even our physical state.
All those things factor in.
What might make one person jump for joy could send someone else running for the hills.
So it's not just about what's happening externally, but about how we're filtering those events through our own internal lens.
Exactly, and this makes empathy so crucial in our interactions with others.
Right.
We can't assume that everyone will experience things the same way we do.
That's a good point.
What we find offensive another person might find hilarious.
Right.
What we find comforting another person might find annoying.
So instead of assuming we know how someone else is feeling, we need to actually listen, and try to see the world from their perspective.
Yes. It takes effort.
It does.
But it's the key to building genuine understanding and connection.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more of Spinoza's ideas that I found really intriguing.
Okay.
He talks about good omens and bad omens.
Yeah.
And how they can influence our emotions and behavior.
This is where we see Spinoza's awareness of how easily humans can fall prey to superstitious thinking.
Right.
He defined good omens as things that accidentally cause hope.
Okay.
And bad omens as things that accidentally cause fear.
So it's not that these objects or events have any inherent power to shape our lives.
Right.
But rather that we project our own hopes and fears onto them.
Exactly. And he points out that we're more likely to believe in things we hope for and less likely to believe in things that scare us.
Makes sense.
So good omens can lead to unfounded optimism, while bad omens can fuel unnecessary anxiety.
It's like when you see a penny on the ground and think it's a sign of good luck.
Yeah.
Even though it's just a random coincidence. Or when you break a mirror and freak out about 7 years of bad luck.
Precisely. And Spinoza saw these superstitions as whereby men are everywhere assailed, causing unnecessary fear and anxiety.
So he's urging us to be more discerning.
Yeah.
To ground our beliefs in evidence and reason, rather than letting our emotions run wild.
Exactly. He's reminding us that while our emotions are a powerful force, they're not always reliable guides.
Right.
By understanding their true causes and mechanisms, we can free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and make choices that are aligned with our values and our deepest aspirations.
Wow. I have to say, Spinoza's ethics is a real mind bender, but in the best way possible.
It is.
It's challenged me to think differently about my own emotions, my relationships with others, and my place in the grand scheme of things.
It's an incredible work that offers so much wisdom for navigating the complexities of human experience.
It really does.
And it leaves us with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If, as Spinoza argues, our minds are constantly seeking greater perfection, what does perfection actually mean for each of us as individuals?
That's a good question.
What does a truly fulfilling and meaningful life look like?
That's a question worth pondering. And on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own exploration of Spinoza's world.
Yeah, keep thinking, keep exploring.
We hope this deep dive has given you some new insights and perspectives to take with you.
Absolutely.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.